I'm Samudragupta, welcoming you again to MiraX 2021, our first virtual event on customer experience. MiraX stands for Future of Experiences. Our stand for Future of Experiences are based on lots of research and important inputs and feedbacks from the industry stalwarts. Today, during our launch of Relata.io, we would like to start a series with industry stalwarts, the InsightX. InsightX is designed to bring the best of industry leaders about the future. At Cognilements, we're looking forward to bring the best to our communities for knowledge empowerment. Today, on the first episode, we are looking forward to start with the following industry experts. We have Mr. Arjun Vaidya, who is the ex-CEO of Dr. Vaidya's and also recipient of Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia and Business World 40 Under 40. Moving onward to Aseem Agarwal, who is the Vice President and Head of Sales at Panchhil Realty. We also have Aslam Karmali, who is the CEO Consumer Division Retail for Eureka Foods Limited. We have Kaustav Majumdar, advisor and mentor at IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, and also advisor and mentors to many startups, including Bengal Chamber of Commerce. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Malhar Barai, Head of Marketing of Asia Pacific and Digital Marketing at Tech Mahindra. I'll take the honor of introducing all of our guests one by one and would like you to introduce them going forward. I'll start with Mr. Arjun Vaidya. Mr. Vaidya is the D2C founder. He built India's largest Ayurveda brand online. The brand has recently acquired by RT Sanjeev Goenka Group, making it one of India's first D2C exits. In 2009, he attended Brown University for his undergrad. In 2013, he moved back to India and joined a consumer sector focused growth private equity fund called L Capital Asia, now Alcatron. In October 2016, he quit his job to take on his family's Ayurveda legacy. Dr. Vaidya repackaged the ancient Indian science of Ayurveda for modern consumers and emerged as India's largest Ayurveda brand online. In 4 years, he successfully reached 1.5 million plus consumers across 500 plus cities and 16,500 plus pin codes in India and launched 70 plus products. He was the first Ayurvedic entrepreneur to be featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia list for the and Business World 40 Under 40 list. Dr. Vaidya also won Youth Assembly of the Year from Amazon and the Retail Startup Award from the Retailers Association of India. In June 2019, they partnered with the US 4B RP Sanjeev Goenka Group and led the business to an acquisition by the group, making it one of India's first successful D2C exits. Welcome, Mr. Arjun Vaidya. Moving on from Arjun, I would like to introduce Mr. Aseem Agarwal. Mr. Aseem Agarwal is the Vice President and Head Sales at Panchhil Realty. He is an experienced sales and marketing professional in the banking and real estate sector. He is a charismatic and energetic leader with a proven track record of consistently winning high levels of business. His entrepreneurial drive with the business management skill has ensured remarkable growth. A highly credible professional with a long history of significant success. Aseem has a clear strategic vision about building relationships and becoming a trusted advisor to his client. Aseem carries vast experience in commercial, corporate, and residential property sales. In addition, is highly regarded for his coaching skills and motivating young minds to achieve productivity goals. Welcome, Aseem Agarwal, and we are happy to have you here with us. Moving on to Aseem, I would like to introduce Mr. Aslam Karmali. Mr. Aslam Karmali is the CEO of Consumer Division, Retail Business, and a member of the co-leadership team at Eureka Foods Limited. As part of his role, he heads the strategic business unit of retail and manages a bouquet of channels like MOR, regional retailers, distributors, and rural network, and also partnerships. He is currently championing the entry of Eureka Foods into the major domestic appliance segment through the launch of Foods ACs called as health conditioners. In addition to India business, he also heads exports to MEA, SEA, and SAR. His experience cuts across the brand management, consumer and trade marketing, channel management, franchisee direct sales, retail and urban sales, rural marketing, factory management, and international business. Welcome, Mr. Aslam Karmali, and would like to hear a lot of you from on this forum. Moving from Aslam Karmali, I would like to introduce Mr. Kaustav Majumdar. So Kaustav Majumdar has 25 years of experience and a long list of professional achievements tagged to his name, including one in psychometrics from the University of Cambridge. He has taught and mentored and worked with more than 50,000 plus students all over the world and is a well-known behavior, culture, and communications trainer and advisor to young adults in more than 12 countries. His current engagement includes his work with the incubation and entrepreneurship activities at SPGen and IIM Calcutta, mentoring and advisory roles in NSHM and eye care, and teaching, which includes entrepreneurship, communications, and customer management in a number of institutions within and outside India. His interest also includes his work with the ILS Network and T5 Group, which houses supports various startups, including one in nanotechnology, virtual reality, education and healthcare, and hospitality. He is also associated with organizations like Sundew, the Internet Infrastructure Company, Business Bureau, Data Science Company, Sicora, Nanotechnologies Company, E-Intelligence, Digital Marketing Company, 24 by 7 suite of Internet products, and many more. His personal interests include writing. One of his stories has been recently made into a movie and is streaming on Z5. He's an avid cricketer and plays for teams in India and UK. He loves the mountains and feels self-defense and emergency care should be made mandatory for children in the schools. Wow, that's amazing. Welcome, Mr. Kaustav Majumdar. And from Kaustav, we'll be moving to Mr. Malhar Barai. Malhar Barai leads the global digital marketing for Tech Mahindra and has been instrumental in running high-impact campaigns. He is also on the advisory board of a Bay Area-based startup focusing on serverless computing, a techie-turned marketer with over 18 plus years of experience. Malhar has co-founded hashtag SEO Talk, India's first and longest running Twitter chat, and also co-hosted the F&M show, again India's first IV talk show on YouTube. An author, advisor, speaker, Malhar mentors individuals in creating omni-channel digital strategies, leveraging the power of live streaming, SEO, and various digital platforms. He speaks at various events on omni-channel marketing, community building, content marketing, and SEO. Thanks and welcome all gentlemen over here. Would like to hear a lot about customer experience today on our first topic. And moving forward, I would look forward to ask a few questions to you. We'll start with Mr. Arjun Vaidya.
Thanks so much, Samudra. Thanks for having me at this event and really excited to be a part of the conversation. As you mentioned, I'm in the Ayurveda industry. My family has been in Ayurveda for 150 years. My grandfather, great-grandfather, and sort of generations before, all Ayurvedic doctors. I was personally cured of asthma by my grandfather's treatment. And so I made him a promise I'd do something with our legacy. After he passed away in 2016, I took his formulations and decided to make a brand named after him. So we launched Dr. Vaidya's as a new age Ayurvedic products brand, digital first. In 4 years, we became India's largest Ayurveda brand, launched 70 products, went from 0 to 5,000 orders a day on our website, did 1.5 million orders just on our own website, across 16,500 pin codes in this country. In June 2019, we raised capital from RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. And fortunately, in March of this year, they acquired the entire business, making us one of India's first D2C exits. Since then, I've been doing what I can to give back to the community in terms of investing and mentoring brands and yeah, figuring out what's next in my journey.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Arjun. Moving from Arjun to Mr. Aseem Agarwal. Can I have your introduction, please, Mr.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Aseem. Thank you, Samudra, for having me for this particular session. And I work as Vice President Sales for Panchhil Realty. I've been with the group for more than 8 years now. And I was with Citibank earlier. I was with Citi for about 3 years' time. So overall, I have about 12 years plus experience in banking, insurance, and real estate sector.
Thanks, Mr. Agarwal, for joining here with us.
Thank you very much, Samudra. Absolute honor and a pleasure to be here with you guys. Sincerely appreciate the gesture. I think it's a phenomenal thing that what you guys are doing. It's with the times, and it's also futuristic, or maybe the future is here now already. I think you've introduced me sufficiently. I do not want to bore our audience with more useless information about myself. This event is more for tomorrow. It's not about what we have done yesterday, because 2020, the world changed again. If I still have to very briefly talk about me, I have been an entrepreneur for a long time. I teach in a few institutions. I work with a large number of quite a few young startups. Some of them are not so young anymore. But I don't think any of that really truly defines who I am. I think I would like to sort of position myself as somebody who is very curious and extremely blessed by I have had the opportunity of living and working in different parts of the world that has shaped in many ways who I am today. Um, while we sat in our respective homes for the last year and a half, this may feel odd, but I believe what happened to the world is in many ways the world shrunk further, even though we did not leave our residences. Going forward, I think people like you will define how tomorrow's future is going to evolve, and people like me will try and sort of, if there is any room for us to share our advice, we will. Otherwise, we'll just be very eager passengers. Thank you for having me over here. I'm happy to help, happy to assist, happy to answer as you would like to take it forward.
Sir, can we have your introduction, please?
Definitely. First of all, thank you for inviting me to your, I would say, flagship event, the first flagship event. And also, I believe it's the third anniversary of your organizations. So congratulations on the journey and my best wishes going further.
Thank you.
I am Malhar and I manage the marketing for Asia Pacific and India region for Tech Mahindra, as well as the global digital marketing. And I call myself as an accidental marketer. I started off as a techie guy, someone, a nerdy person, as you would imagine, sitting in the corner, writing the codes. But yeah, life had other plans, got some business roles and moved to marketing. Never looked back, almost 2 decades in the industry and very passionate about what I do. And this is just one of the way I give back to the community, try to share my thoughts and probably help folks to learn more about customer experience and better the journey. Thank you.
So this whole episode is all about customer experience, and we have industry stalwarts coming together with huge experiences, and it would be great to know about their opinion, how the whole world is changing with new age digital technologies coming in, and how the whole world is accepting the new transformation. My first question to Mr. Arjun Vaidya, who is a D2C founder and an entrepreneur into Ayurveda, an amazing segment to work with. Mr. Vaidya, how do you know whether your customer experience is good or if it needs any improvement? How do you identify your source of customer experience problem?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And you know, Samudra, for us at Dr. Vaidya's, while we were building, we had 7 philosophies. The last of which was customer is our reason for being. And so everything we did, we actually did keeping the customer in mind. I think the only way to know whether you're actually doing the right thing for the customer is to have a conversation, right? And whether you're doing an online business or an offline business, a B2B business or a B2C business, having those conversations with the customer, getting the insights from the customer and getting the feedback on the quality of product you're creating and the experience, that is really important. So I'll give you one example for us, right? So we had a product called the weight gain pack, an Ayurvedic weight gain pack that we were selling, and the product was doing exceptionally well. But I heard a lot of customer calls and I realized that 30 or 40% of the customers are actually saying, hey, we're having your weight gain back, but we actually don't want to gain weight, we want to gain muscle. And there's no Ayurvedic product for gaining muscle. So based on that insight, actually we went back in R&D and we launched a product called Herbo Build, which was India's and the world's first all Ayurvedic natural muscle gain supplement. In 3 months, this product became our company's bestseller. And in 6 months, this product became the #1 bestseller in the health and personal care category on Amazon. So I think really sort of listening to the customer and being open to that feedback and then actioning that feedback, that's the best way to build a high quality customer experience.
Wow, that's an amazing insight. You gave us something new to this forum. I believe the whole community would be learning a lot how Ayurveda product can take difference in terms of digital experience, and then a leaf and comes up, and the customer experience comes into the picture. Amazing. That's quite new to us. Moving forward from Mr. Vaidya, I would like to ask my first question to Mr. Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, you being from a premium real estate company based out of Pune, uh, what is your take on, like, to what extent should we replace human customer experience with digital customer experience? Considering the lockdown coming together and sites are not feasible to open because of lockdown restrictions, what's your take into it?
So see, what I feel is that you can't replace human customer experience by digital or any of those things. So human touch is very, very important. Customers coming to the site, feeling the property, that is not something which you can replace. Yes, there is not a lot of site visits which you can do right now because of COVID, but you can engage with them. You can start engaging with them on digital platforms and through social media, through other things, wherein you try to create an awareness in them that this is something which I would want to look at when the lockdown opens up, or when I'm able to go and look at properties. So definitely you can't replace that particular thing which has been happening, and in fact you need to have both of it. So you can't ignore the entire online presence. Neither can you ignore the entire thing wherein a customer comes down to the site and sees a product in person. Especially with us, since we are only into luxury, so our product range starts from about 2.5 crore and goes up to about 30 crore. So we generally do not have a customer who does online booking. He will take the information online, he will understand everything online. But a customer visit is very, very important, because it's not something which is like a 60-70 lakh product wherein it's a brand like a Godrej or a Tata or any of those things wherein he can just do that kind of a booking. So it's very, very important that we engage with him through online presence, and at the same time when he comes down to the site, he gets equal amount of customer experience once he actually visits the site.
Wow, you talked about the digital experience. Yes, we cannot replace both. At the end of the day, connecting the physical world and the digital world is very, 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 very important. You start from digital space and bring them to physical, and then close the deal. I suppose that's quite important insight for everyone over here on how to drive business. And and my next question would be to Mr. Asam Karmali. Mr. Karmali, my question to you, you being from one among the largest consumer durables company which is working in India, how do you know whether your customer experience or is good, or does it need any improvement? How do you identify your source of problem, and how do you measure and analyze customer experience? The same question.
Yeah, so I think in today's dynamic and highly competitive corporate environment, be it B2C or B2B, be it selling consumer durables like I do, my brand Aquaguard, which is generic as you all know, or even Realty or retail or real estate. The dynamics work pretty much the same for customer experience. The better the experience, the more superior is the brand. The more popular the brand, the more premium the brand. And the reverse holds true for a poor experience. So in today's world, measurement of customer experience, as it's commonly called CX, becomes extremely critical. At Eureka Forbes, a couple of years ago, we launched the NPS concept called the Net Promoter Score.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we actually did is we identified, and that's the first thing I would recommend to everyone on this in this forum, is to identify the critical customer touch points, the typical or the critical trade touch points. So, for example, the touch point of a salesman at a retail store, the touch point of a trade interaction with my salesman, the touch point of an Aquaguard being installed at a customer home once the purchase has been completed. The next touch point would typically be the 2 visits my customer service technician makes during the first year of annual maintenance contract, namely the warranty period. During that time, God forbid the Aquaguard has a problem, the touch point of how my service technician has been able to manage the customer's expectations and what is the level of service and response time in terms of TAT, turnaround times. These are the critical touch points, to name a few. Based on these touch points, what we did is we launched the NPS, as I mentioned, where every single touch point, the consumer gets an SMS. And all he needs to do is click the SMS and give a rating between 1 to 10. And there's a place for qualitative feedback. And we find a lot of customers, especially those who are not rating us too high, do put in qualitative comments, which are their irritants or their areas for improvement. The way NPS works is, if a consumer or a customer rates us 9 and 10, he's a promoter of the brand. If he rates us 7 and 8, he's passive. And if he rates us 6 or below, it's a detractor. Now, the NPS score is calculated with your total number of consumers who rated you 9 and 10 minus the total number of consumers who rated you 6 and below. Typically, Apple, which has been known as one of the best brands and the most popular and the most, I would say, high market cap today in the world, has a NPS score as high as 67. So this is typically how we measure customer and trade satisfaction. And we do this on a weekly basis. And it's a religion in our company. So much to say that even my KRA, which is my key result area on which my variable income is dependent, has a specific KO, key objective of 10% weightage on specific NPS touchpoint scores. And it then gets cascaded right down to the salesman on the ground and the technician on the ground where the NPS is measured. So in short, for us, customer satisfaction is a discipline in the company.
Oh, this is great. The first we heard from an Ayurvedic entrepreneur and then from one among the largest consumer durable company. Amazing for all the budding entrepreneur and people who are starting their businesses. Something to learn today. And essentially why customers' loyalty is too good, because there is a process in place. And from top to the bottom, all the employees at Eureka Forbes are following, and that too on a weekly and religious basis. The hashtag is NPS. But my second question to you, Mr. Karmali, is why should companies upgrade their experience, the customer experience part of it?
Yeah, so I think it's a very fair question. My answer to that is very straight and simple. In today's world and going forward, technology, deep pockets, price, scale, features will all become parity. Will all become parity for all consumer durable as well as B2B businesses, and both MSCB and even the large organization. The only thing that will get differentiated is the brand, be it the brand like mine, which is AquaGuard, for an example, or even a company brand or an organizational brand. So if one has to dissect the DNA of a brand, it's built on, and the foundation of a brand today is built on customer experience. And that is how critical in today's world is customer experience. Let me just build on this. In my own company, I find that selling to an existing customer who's already owning an AquaGuard, a upgraded AquaGuard, or a cross-sell, which would be a vacuum cleaner or air purifier or air conditioner, is 1/3 at a cost versus acquiring a new customer. So acquiring a new customer is 3 times more expensive than selling to my existing customer. And we call that, and the world calls it LTV, lifetime value of a customer. This holds true for B2C. It more importantly holds true for B2B. So to me, the lifetime value of a customer can only be extracted and enhanced through superior customer experience. I'll give another example. 3 to 4 years ago, we launched air conditioners, and this has a purifier in it. So we positioned it a little differently and called it health conditioner. We did a pilot in Kerala, and we realized that 60% plus of our consumers who bought a health conditioner were already existing AquaGuard or vacuum cleaner or air purifier customers. So that's really how critical customer experience is for ensuring that you can get more from the same customer by literally leveraging the brand Eureka Forbes in this case.
Great. Lifetime value is something which we are going to take away from this question. However,
I also want to add one more thing. That today's world, it's becoming extremely critical from a digital perspective. Because if you go, and we all online shoppers, we all shop on Amazon and Flipkart for personal usage. And all of us, without, I would say, exception, by and large, look at the ratings of a product. And the rating needs to be minimum 4 to get into the consumer's mindset and then finally into the basket. And that rating is not something that is paid for. That's not something that can be bought. It's hard-earned rating points online through customer satisfaction.
Oh, this is too good. Digital presence coming into picture and customer feedback is very, very, very important. Wow, that's another important insight for us to take it forward. Moving on to Mr. Kaustav Majumdar, where I would be asking him the first question. The first question to you is like, why legacy-based marketing medium might not work post-pandemic, and what adoptions we can expect to come in the industry?
Like you and I have discussed in the past. Um, see, the world has been changing very frequently. It's just that it changes, the paradigm shifts. I think in my working life, or the time that I have sort of understood a bit about how the world's functioning and how the world's changing, and the big ticket change that I first time realized was happening when internet started becoming very big. And with the advent of personal computers, I was in school then, and then engineering, and the world was changing then. That was about what, early 90s, early 90s to mid 90s. I was in engineering. I remember I was a computer science student then. I had obviously an email ID, but I did not have anybody else to send emails to, because nobody in my environment used email. Now that's 1993. 1993 is about just under 30 years back. It may feel very strange to people such as you. You're very young. You cannot imagine a world where people did not have email. But the world was like that 30 years back. From then onwards, there has been a few very specific technology-induced paradigm shifts. Smartphone was one of them. The advent of social media, I think, is another one. And as the internet bandwidths became bigger and faster and the machines become smaller and more powerful, I think the changes were happening, but the changes were so much under the radar, and it will get lost in new mobile phones and new laptops. So the changes were happening continuously, but they were all man-made changes. I think 2020, what we saw, which possibly was from 2019, and a lot of people would like to argue that it might not have been entirely nature's creation. COVID, as we saw, would like to still, because we do not know for sure, was possibly not entirely man-made. But the world changed very dramatically all of a sudden. When COVID hit us early last year, none of us felt that it's going to be like this. None of us felt that we're going to have a sanitizer in our bag and a mask in our pocket. Now going out of the house is a luxury. In this last 15 months, I think the world changed very dramatically. Now, the big problem I think all of us struggled with is none of us were prepared for this change. It shook us. And in many ways, whatever businesses I am associated with, some that I have direct interest in, and many that I am blessed to be a part of, including yours in terms of support, I think a large number of us were hoping that the world will sort of, do a Control-Alt-Delete and go back to 2019. But it won't. When the change is over a period of time, and it happens every day, every morning, it becomes a habit. I'm now convinced that the world can never go back to 2019 and its ways.
Okay.
So the digital world, the online world, is truly here now, and it needed a little bit of acceleration and a little bit of encouragement that was provided by our friendly little viruses from Wuhan. Now, in this new world, I think every aspect of how we look at our businesses will change. The primary area of concern and interest to people like you, and to a large degree people like me, is the last 20, 30 years, we've been living in a world where brands, or the concept of branding, the visual nature of branding, how we see a brand to be, was defined in a particular manner, and it perpetuated over a period of time. And I think that definition is going to go through a remarkable change. Late 90s, Steve Jobs opened, I think, his first store. He had less than 5% of the market share at that point in time, and he opened a huge store in a parking lot basement parking lot in New York, completely against how the retail world should, typically used to operate then. It was a paradigm shift back then. Now, all of a sudden, I think that in many ways ushered how the touch and feel world that we are used to changed. Now, when we will not go out, when we will not experience anything the way we used to in the past, how are brands going to be differentiated? Now, that customer experience that you talk about, I think it starts much earlier. It does not necessarily start once a customer becomes a paying customer. In many different ways, the customers are perhaps they're forming opinions about you and your businesses much before they become a customer of yours. So the journey starts much earlier. The journey continues. And now what you will not have, you and I won't have, perhaps as much as before, the opportunity of meeting them in person, having a cup of coffee with them. This is the normal course of action. However abnormal this is, I mean, I teach in a few institutions. Whole of last year, I was cribbing that I don't like doing this, and my students were upset because I'm a very in-person kind of teacher. I never had PowerPoint presentations. I would be somebody who will roll up his sleeves and I'd go up to the board and I get inside, the classroom. But I was cribbing and I was hoping against hope. My experience with my customers, which is my students, I will dictate, right? The way I used to do before. 2021, second wave is here, still maybe it's just going out. Third wave is looming over our shoulders. It looks like this will continue. So I think it's time for all of us to get up and realize the world's not going back. Our everyday interface is going to be a Zoom or a Skype, or it's not Skype, it's Microsoft Teams or WebEx or one of those. And if we are lucky once in a while, we'll possibly be able to meet in person. Now, how do you redefine your customer experiences is the big question. What can you do to make yourself personal? You and I have spoken many, many times the importance of experience in a customer's journey, especially when you're building trust, the most important currency that a customer has with you. Yeah. But that's going to change. It has changed already, and it's not going to go back. Also to remember, customers don't want to, very interestingly, there are enough statistics, want to talk to us, you and me, as often as we thought they did earlier. They are also used to this medium now. So it's up to you and me to figure out how we redefine customer engagement is going to be. I hope that put things up.
Amazing. Every time I speak to you, I get empowered with lots of knowledge, and it's amazing to know about your journey from 1993 to 2019, where right now we cannot reboot ourselves and go back to the pandemic era. We need to understand how experience plays a vital role, and coming back from you who has so much of experience makes a lot of sense for people over here. Great. Now moving from Mr. Majumdar to Mr. Malhar Barai. Mr. Barai, you are leading one among the tech giant in India right now, and your experience in marketing is amazing. My true question to you would be: we have heard about VOLTE, voice over long-term evolution, and has changed the way we saw internet industry. What do you expect from the fourth generation of marketing, MOLTE as coined by Cognilements, marketing over long-term evolution?
Marketing as a function is ever evolving, right? So you started off and goes long back into history, right? Marketing was always there in various formats, and digital came in at just one more platform that got added to the list. Tomorrow you will have some more platforms. Tomorrow, and brands are evolving, right? Product brands are evolving in the way they service to the customers. Again, the example or the better example I would say is you go to a mithai wala, right? You want to purchase something and you'll ask for a bite of that mithai, right? And what is that person doing, right? For that person, it is the awareness building, right? He's building awareness of his product, building awareness of his brand, is building the brand reputation, right? So if you look at that entire marketing paradigm or the marketing funnel, right, from awareness, consideration to the conversion, right, that one bite is that entire marketing life cycle, right? And now you just have to move that onto digital format, phygital format, or whatever you call tomorrow. There will be other formats, right? So technology is just an enabler, right? Technology will continue to evolve. There is a lot of artificial learning, machine learning, all those things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all those stuff coming in, right? We will have so many data points that branch will start looking into, because that personalization, right? The one that you got it when you visited the store physically, that mithai gave you a piece of that mithai, right? Before you bought it, right? Now making that into a digital, okay, you have been purchasing this kind of mithais over last 6 months, and given that you have a certain ailment, right? This is something that you can buy, right? So all those data points will come together and give you a personalized experience. So marketing 4.0 or whatever you call, right? That would be more experience basis, more personalization. We see some amount of personalization right now, but even in that marketing journey, the simple thing that starts with your search, right? Your search is becoming so personalized. Before anything or anywhere you go, you search for something. There is a lot of artificial intelligence coming in. So my point is, technology or marketing 4.0 would be more personalized. There will be more focus on AI, ML driven. And again, there will be a lot of personalized plus experiential marketing that will come in, say, in the next phase of growth. Hope that answers your question.
Wow, great example, great example. The accidental marketer coming up with an amazing example. The mithai wala concept, which we use everyone to try, test, and go from one shop to another, and then buying what we like the most. Wow, that's cool insight. We end our first round, moving to our second round. Coming back to Mr. Vaidya, my second question to you would be, what is the role of digital in improving the customer experience, given the rapid growth of digitalization in present times?
Sure. So look, I think 2020 has been sort of an inflection point for the way brands think of marketing and the requirement or importance given to digital across business types and sort of business scale as well, right? So it's clear now that every business has to have a digital strategy regardless of what you do. There are very few businesses which can say no to digital as well. So the example I like to give on this one actually is my parents, right? So my parents have been parents of an e-commerce entrepreneur, right? They've seen me work through building a brand online, but my dad had never placed an order on Amazon until April 2020. In April 2020, he placed his first order on Amazon. Since then, he has placed 20 orders on Amazon. He now goes on his Instagram feed and clicks on websites and buys products D2C, and has gone to the level of calling the companies if they're late on their delivery and asking them why they're late on the delivery, right? So fundamental change in behavior in customers has happened now, right? The great part about the access to digital and brands being able to use digital is that you can talk directly to customers. You can get direct feedback. You can action directly, right? So previously, at least in the FMCG space, when you had offline distribution, there were a lot of layers between brand and customer. And so to reach to the customer, get insights sometimes took a few months, and the insights when they reached to may have been stale. Today, if you get those real insights from the customers and you're actually able to action those insights, it gives you tremendous amount of agility and tremendous amount of scope to innovate. And we've seen in our community, at least in the D2C community, brands being extremely agile and quick in sort of introducing products, adopting products. And I think that's the real power that digital gives you.
Thank you for the insight and your whole story of your father coming up with buying 20 odd products in the last 1 year and the whole pandemic coming into the picture. Great to see the whole world accepting the digital boom altogether. Amazing. I mean to say the examples which you have quoted about your father and connecting with your family and however people are interacting with your brands and how they are buying. It's really great to take it forward. Thanks, Mr. Arjun Vaidya. We move to Mr. Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, coming back to your scenario, real estate. How do you use customer experience to change the behavior of the frontline employees to interact with the customer?
So, in our business, specifically with the segment which we are into, customer experience is something which is of utmost importance. So, basically, a lot of our business happens through customer referrals. So, this segment of a customer who is there, he generally relies on some of his friends already been bought with us. He will start referring that customers to you. So, you will see a lot of customer referral being happening in the segment which we are into. So, when when there is a customer who is happy with the purchase which has been there, he automatically starts to refer customers. So for a sales manager or for the team, when he sees the customer is referring, that means he is extremely happy with what he has bought, and he's also happy with the service which he has been receiving. That is what gives him the confidence to refer his friends, family, or anyone else, because he would never want if he had a good experience, then only he will go on and refer those more clients to us. So that is where the sales manager is extremely patient with him, extremely important to create that engagement with him. It's not only about that purchase, that today he buys a product with us and then then it stops or it moves to the next team who is going to be taking care of that relationship. So doing an end-to-end relationship right from the time when he does a call on a pre-sales or calls on IVR to the purchase, to the post-sales, to the handover, the entire journey of the customer is extremely important. So the same person is involved in those particular stages, though there are different teams which manage different aspects of the business, but there is a relationship manager or sales manager who is in touch with the customer regularly throughout that entire process of the journey which is there with us. So earlier in real estate, talking about 7 8 years back or 9 years back, the demand used to be always much more than what the supply was. So customers was always in that particular phase wherein they used to be queuing up or lining up to make that purchase, and there were very very limited developers which was there in the market. Right now, in the last 3 4 years time or 5 years time, the things have entirely changed. You have a whole new set of developers which has come into picture, and it is no more that demand and supply game. It is rather more of a supply and less of a demand which has been there. So that is where the customers also have a choice right now. That is where he demands that kind of a service. He demands that kind of an experience to be created for him, so that he gets more and more customer for us.
Thank you. Thank you for the insight, which is related to how you are connecting your customers and how your references are helping you to build your business. Word of mouth is the new hashtag, which we believe every one of us need to understand. And coming back to Mr. Karmali, my question to you would be again, like, could you please share your views with few examples on the importance of digital presence solution and how it helps your consumers' durable business during the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, I think a year ago, we all were hit with COVID. And we all remember third week of March where the country was shut down. And I must confess, most of us were quite flabbergasted in terms of what needs to be done. And typically for us, monsoon is a peak business because waterborne diseases do surface and maximize during the monsoon. So every year we have a water testing campaign where consumers walk into our key stores and they bring their water samples, and we do on the spot at the store water checking, the quality, etc., through a set of equipment, and we then suggest the right product, the right technology for consumers. Given the lockdown, given the fact that consumers were not even willing to walk out of the house, we use digital. So we have a 15,000 pin code water mapping data, which is obviously an IPR for us. We looked at that data, we digitized that data, and we put it on an app. And then this data was available to our sales team who were working from home on Zoom calls like I'm doing with you today, engage with our existing customers, with fresh customers where there was a call-in number at advertising, wherever we were advertised. And the consumer then online was able to put his PIN code in the app, pop would come out the quality of water, the suggested technology, and virtually a suggested product would come up in terms of a suggested purchase. And if the consumer liked the product, wanted to know more, the salesman who was on the other side of the Zoom call would get him the details. The price was negotiated. The consumer could, through digital payment, make the payment to the particular dealer. And within the specific time, the dealer / the company would deliver the AquaGuard directly to the consumer's home. So if you realize, we manage the same kind of customer experience, which would be done at a physical store in a normal non-pandemic time, completely digital, thanks to the virtual water testing. I could give another example of how we really use digitization to enhance customer experience. What we found on June, I think 4th was the unlock last year, that when unlock happened and stores came open, maybe for a few hours, consumers were very wary. Consumers were very scared. Consumers were maintaining social distancing. And I particularly, when I was in the store, I was observing that nobody wanted to touch a leaflet. Nobody wanted to take a brochure home. So we very quickly reacted at a digital level. We put a QR code on all our display products across 9,000 stores. And this was done absolutely at breakneck speed. And then a consumer could actually go to the store, take his mobile, put the QR code on. It would immediately take him to the microsite of the product, give the technologies, the features, introduce him to VWT, which I just spoke of before, virtual water testing, and complete the entire sale at the store, make a digital payment at the store, and delivery would happen within 2 days. So 2 clear examples of how we enhance the customer experience during the pandemic using the digital platform.
Oh, that's an amazing, amazing insight. Virtual testing of water, and how you can prove that data is very, very important to us. And well, this is quite new. We as startup technology founders should take something from your book. It's quite new to us when everybody went into a lockdown, to an amazing way of sharing a marketing collaterals with people scanning QR code. I still remember when we spoke about the AR and the VR engagement. We are pretty much used to it. And I suppose the next future is more about getting things into VR and AR coming into the picture, with extended reality playing its vital role, with lots of business analytics. This is a great show. Moving from Mr. Karmali to Mr. Majumdar, your question number 2 would be, why does experience need to focus more compared to exploration? We talk about experiences and exploration when it comes to the 4th generation of marketing. And what's your take on it?
First and foremost, we should not live under any hangover. I feel that life is going to be pre-pandemic. It won't be, right? Pandemic is a pivot in our lives, which essentially has rebooted everything that we do. So let's forget pre-pandemic, which also includes all the definitions of 4 Ps and 4 Cs and 3 Ps and 8 4s, 8 Ps and S's and everything that management gurus have been telling us. They all needed to change. Right. They all needed to change for a long, long time. But we are essentially lazy, right? Innovation is something that we all enjoy talking about. We are only innovating when do you make money? You don't make money in innovations. You make money in boring processes. Right? So you want to make something and then make money by sort of churning it again and again and again and as long and as often as you can. That's how you make money. Now, all these wonderful management concepts that we are so proud of are anything between 40 to 70 years old, right? They all needed to change. Thankfully, they have all changed. So in preparing for your tough questions, I was spending a little time reading. And I chanced upon something in one of the Harvard Business Reviews. I've forgotten which article it was. And I found it to be very, very interesting. So I'm going to pivot slightly from the marketing 4 Ps to another popular one is the Cs, right? I'm not going to get into what the old Cs were. The old Cs are not necessarily important anymore. The new Cs. The new Cs are content, commerce, community, and convenience. I'm going to repeat that. It's content, commerce, community, and convenience. I haven't read the article very, very thoroughly as yet, But I liked it. I liked it because we are now trying to internalize certain phenomena that has happened in our lives, not just in the last year and a half, but has been happening in the last 10 years. But we refuse to see it. We refuse to see how big data plays a role in our lives. We refuse to acknowledge how overall Industry 4.0 was to impact our lives, how IoT will make a difference, how your world, interactive visualization, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, how these were all flattering to deceive for such a long time. VR was arriving for the last 5-10 years. People did not want those changes to happen. What has happened in the last year and a half, all those changes have been ushered in very, very rapidly now. So all of a sudden, this is actually a great time for you. I don't know whether Cognilements had any role to play in terms of developing any viruses in certain parts of China or not. But for example, this unfortunate global catastrophe is now going to push a large number of technology that was about to break through for a very long period of time. The world of reality is one of them. Now, essentially, it's all those management jargon and funders which needed to change. There is no option, you will have to change. The boom of content-based marketing has been around for a while. It's common, it's everything that we learn in classical marketing. But you cannot say it's the same because the advent of data, the amount of information completely changes, skews everything. Now, when you talk about communities in a global social media empowered world, it's very different from the way you looked at community earlier. Today, your community may include, because you're sitting at home, right? Previously, your community was a very touchy look and feel, so your nukkad, your area, your locality, you'll go and have a cup of tea. Now I can have a cup of tea with you sitting in Pune, right? My relatives could be sitting in Singapore or my friends could be in London. It doesn't matter. The whole concept of community has changed. Geography has got shortened right now. The understanding of culture has become of more paramount importance. Right? Now, all of these things essentially mean that the way we are going to experience anything has to go through a change now. You and I have again spoken in the past, and I know we have discussed this, the importance of experience. And a lovely line that I came across in some other article, it's not mine, but I don't know who wrote it, is to experience is to be human. And I find that very powerful. Now that should tell us, so we want to, the tactile parts of our lives, we think of experience to be only that, but experience is also something that's happening inside our mind, right? So I will be very curious to know when experience is human, and when I cannot meet you in person, I cannot shake hands with you, I cannot give you a hug, right? And let's extrapolate that to the world of business. I cannot try out this shirt. I cannot try out this, 50 types of specs. What's going to change? How am I going to, this is now going to go away. But what that essentially means, a whole bunch of other experiences are now super amplified. In many ways, I think the example would be found in God's ways of dealing with us when somebody, for example, does not have the right, somebody cannot see properly with their eyes or cannot hear properly. Invariably, other senses apparently seem to become stronger. I mean, you must have read this and heard this, right? So if somebody is deprived on one, the others kind of counterbalance. It seems to me that this touchy-feely part of experience seems to be now under control, should be sort of shrunk, which means the others are going to be amplified. Now, with that in mind, I think we have used experience very loosely in the past. With our solution, you'll be able to experience, or the customers will be able to experience. We have used it very, very lightly. We have to redefine these. Experience is human. Experience is going to be the value now. There is enough ample literature which says that people are willing to pay sufficiently more amount of money if the experience is favorable, right? Which means experience is value. which means when you talk to your customer and says, if you use Cognilements, your customers will be able to experience your solutions better. Now, what this meant in 2019 cannot mean the same in 2021. So we'll have to redefine the way we look at experiences now. For example, in education, everybody, every home, another 5-10 years from now, I don't know whether it'll take its own time for it to go down to the lowest socioeconomic strata in the country. But I'm assuming in the 5-10-15 years time frame, all of us will have access to mixed reality, for example. With digital twins are going to be commonplace. All of us will have chashmas which will connect to the internet, which will aid my augmented reality experiences. Now, experience is going to be now very different. It's going to be truly a mixed experience where digital and the physical world will have to blend. Now, all of this, you and I have spoken about many years. This is your business and your vision, but now it's going to happen.
Coming back to additional 4 C's: convenience, content, community, and commerce. And wow, this is where we all would be understanding addition to this experience is the value. Value is the keyword. That's the keyword that I'm going to take it from here at Cognilements. We would love to talk about convenience, content, community, and commerce. It makes a huge sense for us, for the whole ecosystem that we are creating. Next value word which has to start with experience. Mr. Malhar Barai, my second question to you would be, as an industry expert, what are your thought process on experiential marketing? You doing a lot of marketing activities for brands like Tech Mahindra. How do you bring it?
Experiential marketing, say again, I'll go back to my particular example, and even if I have to take another example, the one, and I quote this at a few other conversations also, is like, you know what Ramayana is, right? Now, what is the teaching of Ramayana, right? It's good wins over evil. Right? Now, if I just made that statement to you, good wins over evil, and you'll say, okay, what is the shit this guy is talking about, right? But the moment I build a story around it, right? I say, okay, there is a character called Ram, there is a character called Ravana, right? Ram kills Ravana because of various reasons. Now, okay, there is something around it. Now you bring in other characters, you bring in a Lakshman, you bring in a Sita, you bring in a Hanuman, right? So it's all about storytelling. It's all about building your experience around certain, whatever your product. If I call that religion or something as a product, right? But whatever product or services, are you building that story around it? That is number one. Now, how are you personalizing that story, right? So earlier days, Ramayana was just a book that people used to hand over generations, right? Then Mr. B.R. Chopra came and he made an entire TV serial around it, right? It's an experience, right? It's all about how storytelling can be devised in certain way, right? After Mr. Chopra, there were a few other people who came in, and then now there are people who are building cartoons around it, building an AR/VR experience around it, right? So my point is, everything, right? Your product, your services, right? Your positioning has to be personalized. Going further, we will see a lot more personalization happening, like Mr. Aseem said, visiting of the properties, right? The way it is happening today, there is VR, AR coming into place, and people are getting that experience of how it will be. Or probably if we go about 2 years back, you had seen how the likes of Nerolac and other guys would just take the dimensions of your home or a wall and say, okay, you apply your paint virtually and see how it looks before you go ahead and purchase it, right? So that entire experiential bit will gain prominence. It will be more personalized. That is what the next generation, like you said, of marketing or the technology enablement in marketing will be taking place. There's a lot more technology these days, but say throughout the journey of customer acquisition to the delivery of the product to probably the loyalty bit also, there will be a lot more adoption of technology, and that will be more personalized. That's my thoughts.
This is amazing. Things coming from you at the end of the day as an experiential marketer and sharing the knowledge to the community, something which we should take it forward from here. Here we go with the round three, coming back to Mr. Vaidya again. Mr. Vaidya, my third question would be to you is, what is the difference between customer experience and customer service?
I'm not really one for definitions, to be honest. But I think if I were to think about it, I think about it between sort of looking at customer service and customer delight, right? So customer service is the bare minimum you have to do. If there is a grievance, if there is a query, if there is feedback, you have to take that all in. If there is delay in deliveries, you have to take that all in and sort of action the inbound, right? That's customer service, basically. And we used to have a team at Dr. Vaidya's that did this and sort of answered customer queries, explained the products to customers, and solved what was inbound. That's the basic. What brands need to go to now is called customer delight, right? It's delighting a customer or surprising a customer with something so exciting that they would have never expected, that they then become loyal to your brand and eventually become spokespeople for your brand. So I'll give you an example. One example of something we did this Diwali, right? So usually brands give gift boxes, dry fruits, mithai, all of those kind of things for Diwali. But this year we were sort of neck deep in the pandemic and had a very tough year till then. So this year for Diwali, we decided to do something for our top 500 customers, right? But instead of sending them something, we recorded a personal message from me as the founder of the company for each and every one of these 500 customers. Now, from an execution perspective, the message was the same. Just the first 10 seconds was different, talking to that specific customer. But for these customers, it meant that each of them got a personal message from the founder of the company that they enjoy consuming products from. And in that sense, the amount of goodwill we generated at a very low cost was really exciting. So I would say that I would differentiate customer service from customer delight.
Customer delight. Yeah, that's a keyword which everybody here understand, and we would be taking it from customer delight, and it's very important thing. Mr. Agarwal, my question number 3 to you. What are the ways in which you can keep the customers up to date with the status of your projects which are still under construction?
Sure, good question. So, as I mentioned, that client engagement is very, very important. So, it's not only about what has been happening with this project, but overall what's happening with the company, what's happening with the overall real estate sector. So today, if he has bought a product with us like a Panchhil Towers, it's not only about giving an update in terms of this is a unit which you've booked and we have reached to this stage of construction and this is what has been happening, but he is also interested in knowing what else is happening with Panchhil, what else is happening in the real estate industry, how is the commercial market doing, how is the residential market doing, how is the overall Kharadi market doing, how is my surrounding going to be. So this is something which we keep sending to them regularly. So we have a customer portal which is there, wherein he can get all the construction updates, he can get all his details, receipts, payment invoices and everything which can be done online. So this is something which he doesn't need to call anyone to check or request someone that please send me the latest receipt which is being paid up or what is the construction being happening. Everything gets updated every 15 days or every 30 days as and when there is a construction progress which has been there. But more than that, more than everything which is available to him online, he also needs to be connected time and time again, because all these things, the overall development which has been happening with the site, with the overall industry, this needs to be spoken to them, this needs to be told to him. So, apart from just sending out regular updates, it is also important to keep in touch with them. So we also do a lot of client events. So obviously, no physical events has happened in the last 1.5 years time. But previous to COVID, we used to ensure that every month we organize some of the other events wherein we call them up for those events. And it is not only prospects, it is also the existing set of customers, it's also the prospects, old bookings, even if there's, someone who is not really been an active customer, but, we keep doing these kind of engagement so that he gets to know what has been happening and he also meets up with us. Second way is, your birthdays and your anniversaries. So this is something which is very, very important for all the clients. Everyone is, very touchy about their birthdays, anniversaries. So we make sure that the relationship manager or the sales manager calls them up, instead of there is an automated email which goes out wishing them, anniversary and birthday wishes, but then a person, a relationship manager calls them up, greets them and wishes them on their birthday. And at the same time, the conversation also builds up. So those things create a lot of customer delight and being updated as to what he is looking at, or what any modification which he has requested, any of those requests which he has been which he has sent out in the past conversation or in the last meetings. Update on those particular things is also very important. So I believe that it is not only one thing to send out an update, but it is also important to call them up and keep checking with them. So during this COVID time also, there was no follow up which we could do. Or we could not call up a customer asking that, hey, you visited the property 10 days back or 15 days back, how do we proceed forward or do this thing. But we were just checking with them as to if everything is fine with them, if every family member is doing okay, if there's anything which is required, for us to be done. So we had done a vaccination drive also, through Panchhil. So we also checked with our channel partner, with our customer, if there would be any support required to get the vaccination done. These are the things which is, very, very important. It is not only about checking with them as to what is happening with the project, but it also checking on them in terms of if they're keeping well, if their family is keeping well.
That's a really nice initiative you have taken up with Panchhil Realty. It brings a lot of confidence with the buyers and seller community altogether, including a channel partner. It gives a different kind of a boost to the whole ecosystem. Coming back to Mr. Karmali, my third question to you would be, how would we train employees to provide better customer experience to our customers?
I think it's a fair question, and it's on top of mind of most organizations and most leaders like myself. I think the NPS, in my case and my company, provides a very valuable insight, because as I said, it's a weekly NPS score. So there's trending that can be done, and the ability of, because it's digitized, the ability to actually deep dive right down to the salesman, right down to the city level, right down to the service partner level, the technician level, where the NPS score has taken a beating in a specific week. We actually do that. Now, once that is done, you actually know which are your weak links. And as they say, a chain is as strong as its weakest links. So that's what we do using the NPS. The second part, which I mentioned, is for all those consumers who are rating us 6 and below, which were our detractors, we have observed most of them actually vent their frustrations, and rightfully so, in the qualitative statements that we ask them to write. Now, these statements are pearls of wisdom. They provide us some very critical inputs on where our teams are lacking. And that actually becomes an important funnel to provide us and realize for us the capability gaps. Once we've achieved or identified our capability gaps, we then set the training agenda. And we then apply our internal trainers, or if it demands external trainers, we bring them in, and we have regular training programs. In fact, our in-store promoters are trained every Monday. Our sales team are trained minimum once a month. And one critical point I would like to leave to this audience, training is not good enough. It's important we check the residual, because most people leave the program and they've forgotten about the contents. So what we do is we have virtual tests. I repeat, we have virtual tests, which is on the app of every sales team, which is on the app of every in-store promoter, which is on the app of all our technicians. And we have a predetermined frequency, which could be 3 days after the training program, then a 10-day, and the last questionnaire 21 days from the training program. Now, these scores are collated. And when we are looking at the increments of sales teams, we're looking at promotions, we actually consider the test scores. So we realize how capable, from a customer expectation delivery perspective, each of our touch points is, be it a service technician, be it a salesperson, be it an in-store promoter.
I knew NPS is the word coming out. Amazing insight. I believe right now NPS should be a new terminology which we all should pick up. And many of us, like founders who are growing a company, should go on this, on words like NPS, who can go ahead while training their employees. Getting the virtual test was amazing, because many of us rather won't understand the quality standards, and then checking it up time and again brings a lot of customer experience and satisfaction. This is quite moving from Mr. Karmali to Majumdar. Another question to an industry expert: how do you judge whether the BCP of a company is quite capable enough to face any challenges in the future?
This is obviously a very, very powerful question, and trying to answer this with any degree of smartness is tempting fate. People like me, we pretend to be teachers, we pretend to be consultants, and we pretend to know a lot more than we actually know. The lockdown hit me as much as it hit everybody else. We read, and I was 17th, 18th of March, I was in Bangalore and I was flying, and I decided to fly back to Calcutta because things were looking bad. But we kind of knew in February that it's only a matter of time that India will get affected. But did I think it's going to be the same or worse on 20th of June, a year after that? No, I did not. So I think it will be a lie if I try to sort of give some thoughts that I know how to deal with the situation. No, I don't. But business continuity practice is not a new concept, right? We have seen businesses getting disrupted for a wide variety of other reasons. It could be natural calamities. It could be the death of a leader in a company, and you have succession planning, which is essentially business continuity practice. You have, it could be man-made, right? It could be a fire. It could be a whole bunch of other things. It could be that a hostile takeover is planned and you need to still sort of figure out. It could be a strike in a factory. In the world of technology, which used to be core technology, networks, etc., which used to be my world, say about 10, 15 years back, I spent a lot of time in building business continuity practices for various large corporations. And we had a very interesting concept called NSPOF. I'm sorry, technology world loves acronyms. The NSPOF was no single point of failure. So when we were designing a network, we would try and figure out where can it fail the most. And you then build a redundancy over there. And you start sort of iterating this. Now, depending on how well you see the world around you and how paranoid you are as a human being, including how unhappy you are as a person, you will see more and more problems. But it's good to see problems because then you take actions to protect yourself. The problem with that is potentially there is an NSPOF, a no single point of failure. Potentially there is a single point of failure in everything that you do. And you can build redundancies as many as you want. It's also expensive. How many redundancies would you build? I mean, if you have a very important R&D expert in your company, right? That person can leave, can join a competition company, there's a software company, I'm not going to name them. They got acquired by, I think, one of the large companies. They ran into a huge degree of problem. I used to be one of their consultants. Their CIO had a car accident, lost his family members. His father was previously injured, but became all right. But he lost his senses. He became childlike after that accident, and he could never go back to work. And it took him about 4 years before he eventually succumbed. He died. That company could never recover from that. It was about a 500 people company, a very strong sort of a tech company building financial products. I'm talking 15 years back or 10 years back, right? Now, does business continuity mean that every CIO should have another CIO? Well, that's why we build processes. So if something goes wrong, the processes take over. A comparable example would be only recently a very well-known bank got into a serious problem when their CEO got into troubles with the law. Right? It's a very, very well-known bank. And under any circumstances, that bank should have suffered a lot more, but it did not, because the bank had tremendously good processes and great people. And despite the CEO having whatever right, wrong problems that the person was going through, the bank survived and continued to do well. That's business continuity practice. But COVID was very different. We just, all business continuity, but how do you plan for COVID? How do you plan for a time when we just cannot move? We are paralyzed. There's nothing we seem to be able to do. And post now, after a year, we have also realized work from home has its tremendous advantages, no doubt about it. Especially if you're living in a city like Bombay, 2 hours of travel each way, right? You save that time. But work from home has created huge degrees of problems for other people. Not everybody has the luxury of a separate room where somebody can just plonk themselves and make that into an office. In fact, an overwhelming number of people in our country won't have that luxury, right? And then if the husband's working and the wife's working and both the children need to go to school, what do you do? Right? In my household, my driver has 2 daughters. One of them is my own daughter's age, right? Sure, they go to, unfortunately, different types of schools, which are driven by socioeconomic differences in our society. But at least both the child were getting some degree of schooling. My daughter's case, we quickly bought a laptop for her, right? And her school continued through Zoom. In my driver's case, it was not a question of giving him a laptop only. School just did not function anymore. It's government school. Unfortunately, it did not. Now, how do you do business continuity in this case? Now, all of a sudden, after a year and a half, I'm beginning to see the world will be very different for different reasons for a wide variety of people. Going back to our business scenario, my understanding, talking to people such as you and others, is what we have always understood. The heart of the business, at least in my mind, and I know we have discussed this, and this is a significant part of my own personal research and teaching, the heart of any business should be the customer. Bill Ollett, somebody I greatly admire and follow his works, as a director with MIT, had very famously said that the single most important condition in any business is a paying customer. Now, the heart of any business is the customer. We realize that. So I would now like to redefine business continuity practice in figuring out the following things. In the case of a lockdown, I don't want to use the word lockdown. We don't want to hear lockdown word anymore in our lives, I know. But in the case of a scenario where we are stuck and we cannot move, these are the questions that should come to our minds. We have sold something to our customers. How do we ensure that the customer continues to get support? I would think business continuity from this point of view. Our customers have trusted us and bought something. They're using something. They need to be able to see customers, unless you're selling a B2C high-end product like, I don't know, Gucci or a Jimmy Choo or whatever product. Mostly customers buy from us to serve their customers. I mean, unless it's a consumer product, of course, right? They need to serve their customers. So not only we need to put our customer in the center of our business, we actually need to put our customer's customer in our business, in the center, and think business continuity from that point of view. Otherwise, Samudra, there is no end to it, right? Especially companies such as yours and other upcoming startups, right? You are doing extremely well, I know that, but you're not sitting in hundreds or thousands of crores of cash. So you need to prioritize not just your money, but also your time. Which business continuity aspects would you build redundancies for? My recommendation for your customers and for your customers' customers. And I would now reimagine the entire world of your business, the entire processes of your business from that perspective. In the center lies your customers' customers, then your customers, and then next. So in the case of a lockdown, in the case of when business comes to a standstill, what I would recommend is we look at all business continuity aspects to get those running. And what are those will depend from business to business, will depend from industry to industry, but that's the mind shift that we need to do. I'm assuming all of us would have put our data in secure multiple locations, they're running on clouds, all of those things are okay. Will your customer get value when most of your businesses are coming to a standstill, but they keep getting value. Because if you can support those customers, I think you will be fine when the world again comes back to normalcy. If your relationship with your customers get delinked, I think you're in trouble.
Great insights for startup and people who are already into the business, where we need to focus. Especially BCP is not all about having data into multiple cloud servers, but also a different aspect where everything considering the life cycle of products needs to be taken care. Thanks, sir. Mr. Malhar Barai, round three, question number 3 to you would be: considering the growth in technology, what are the marketing mediums available today and what do we expect the industry to adapt in coming years?
Mediums available today. So I guess most of the organization and probably when I look at the stats perspective, and 90% of the population is already on internet, right, across the globe. And out of that, more than 50% are on digital platforms, right? So that's the kind of stats we have as of today. Now, out of that 50%, each of them would have access to at least one of the social network, right? It could be either Facebook, anything, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you call it, right? Twitter. The next is more about how some of those platforms, and you have seen Facebook and Google's or Snapchat's already investing on those, right? You have the Oculus and those stuff coming out. The Snapchat had spectacles, Google had glasses, etc. The kind of innovation is already happening to make it more personalized. Going further, I see a lot of development going on that part. Brands, including social platforms, will look at those moments of engagement, right? Like Mr. Aseem and Arjun had spoken about, how do we delight the customers beyond the purchase cycles also. So that moments of engagement through technology is something that brands will have to consistently look for, aided by technologies like, again, data points gathered from various sources, applying your machine learning and AI algorithms over it, and creating those, like I said, moments of engagement. And that's the future of technology. Again, personalization will be the foremost priority, because even from a real estate perspective, if I am able to tell the customer this is a property basis your requirements, or basis something that you have researched for, basis your income, right, if we have to put it correctly. And that's all. There are a lot of data points that are available, that will be available going forward. So leverage technology. Data is the new oil. 5G and all those things will supplement on those data, and you have AI and ML to help you devise or probably learn more out of that data. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Amazing. Thank you. Considering the kind of technology improvement coming in, tech is advancing things to a next level, and going forward, we'll see more tech advanced platforms in the field of deep learning, machine learning, AI, or extended reality. I could say right now, Cognilements is working in all of those 4 spaces. Here we move to our last round of question answers, 4th round, and I'm coming back to Mr. Vaidya. So Vaidya, how can we make our customer experience more unique and not just seamless? I just repeat, not just seamless.
There's the basic level, which is seamlessness. That's the platform you have to start at, right? So if you start from the bottom, you got to get up to seamlessness first. I think seamless is the bare minimum you have to offer customers. You have to make sure that at least the basics are in place. From there, then you say, hey, by the way, my brand does XYZ. My customers may need this more. Like, for example, we offer a free consultation to every customer, whether or not they bought the product. That's a unique personalized experience, right? But until you establish seamlessness, until you establish basic quality customer service, there's no point in the personalization. Once you get there, you then need to take the experience to the next level. That's when you get to personalization.
Yes, benchmarking is very important. First, attend seamlessness and then go forward with unique part of it where you can keep on changing and you just keep on upgrading. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to come back to Mr. Agarwal with his final question is, Mr. Agarwal, as a customer, how do I evaluate the quality the of my unit keeping the lockdown in mind? How do I go ahead with the quality of construction?
See, real estate is a very complex industry, in terms of construction and everything. For a customer or a layman, it's not very easy to understand what has really gone into making of that product, and understand the entire technical aspect of construction. So that is where the brand of the developer, the reputation of the builder plays a big role. So it's very, very important that you choose your developer rightly. One bad project if you do, or one project if you neglect, it the market, the news spreads in the market. So it is not something wherein a customer will be able to really come down, check what has happened and everything. It is not possible for a customer to really monitor that particular aspect. But it is important that you choose a developer rightly, whom you can rely upon, whom you can trust upon, and who has a significant presence. And that is where the reference part is also important. Someone who has had a good experience, someone who has been seeing the track record of the developer. So those are the things which is important over here. You will physically, for any customer, it is not really going to be possible to ascertain if the quality has been checked or not. So though there are handover processes and everything which has been there, but ultimately, if the developer decides that I have to cut corners, he will have 10 reasons to justify to a customer, telling them that this was not mentioned in the agreement and this is not there and this is how it is, or the prices have gone up. So you just have to make sure that you go with a developer who has a good track record, who has a reputation, and that's the only one thing which can help him to stay abreast with that.
Great. So that means trusting a brand is very much important, and it comes with the goodwill and the services they have been offering in the market over the years. And
Definitely. So, in fact, if you see in the last 8 years, 9 years, there used to be a very, very handful of developers which used to be there in the market. So, and real estate is a very local game. It is not something in which you'll see a lot of national players being there in the industry. So, every city has, few, 4, 5 names which are very, very big. And, those have a lot of reputation being there. And it's the regulations, the laws, it differs state by state. So every city, or every city, you will see few developers having a very, very strong hold in that particular city. So it's important that you choose them wisely.
that's quite an insight for any home buyer who are looking to buy homes and are concerned about the quality part of it. Moving to the next question to Mr. Karmali, where I would like to understand at Eureka Folks, to what extent should we replace human customer experience with digital customer experience? And in what ratio should we combine digital customer experience and human customer experience to provide optimal customer experience to our customers?
Oh, that's a complicated one. I'll try and break it down. Essentially, let me put it as pre-COVID and post-COVID. And I'll jump to the post-COVID first, because we are in the pandemic and this is what everyone calls as the new normal. During the first wave, which was last year, and when we were locked, I gave you examples of how we use digital to enhance our customer experience for customers, even those who are sitting at home. So virtual water testing, the demo from a distance, our sales teams doing Zoom calls and communicating with consumers. This was 100% from a saliency point of view digital, because there was no chance of any physical interaction at a store level. Now, if one looks beyond the point when wave one started, kind of receding and unlock happened from June, customers did go out, but there was a very interesting, I would say, consumer behavior that we observed. And this we did through our shopper research. We did this through consumer work. What we realized is that typically shoppers like you and me, who do window shopping on a weekend with our family, who would spend hours together, going through brands, through ranges, through categories, through shops. Typically, consumers would compare prices of 2 to 3 stores in the same mall, or even drive down to a couple of neighboring stores for prices, for negotiations. In the post-pandemic, once the unlock happened in June, almost all of that stopped. What consumers did is they spend more time online. So they looked at ratings, they looked at comparison, platforms. They looked at mouthshut.com, for example, for qualitative feedback. They extensively went into social media to understand how is the brand doing, what is the feedback on a particular product. And ultimately, I saw that a consumer would shortlist about 2 brands. And then he would not take his family. He was taking nobody, typically either the gentleman or the woman. So in which case they didn't go with a wife or a husband or a family, just alone. Yeah, either of them quickly entered a store. They were very clear which store they would go, and then looked at the 2 brands that they had in their mind, quickly identified which one they would go with, and then made the payment and left the store. Average time in the store in wave 1 was about 10 to 12 minutes. Now, if you look at this, there was a complete departure post-pandemic or post-wave 1 from the earlier shopping habit, which I described. So to answer your question, I would say in the current new normal, 70% of customer experience is actually digital, and 30% is at a store. Pre-pandemic, I would say it was about 80-20, where about 80% of all customer experience pre-purchase was at the store, physical, and the touch points which I mentioned at the start of my discussion were very critical. And just 20% was online. So this is a dramatic shift, and I'm sure you'll ask me the next question, so I'll preempt it. Going forward, how do I see it proceed? I would say it will normalize at 60% digital and 40% physical, because we are moving in a world of, I would say, omni-channel. We are moving in a world of omni-commerce. And at the end of the day, this is really what is going to be critical, that we manage online, offline, and offline, online seamlessly from a customer experience point of view.
I suppose practically, most of us were talking about different points, but this numbers prove how the digital experience is going to be there in the future. And eventually at Cognilements, we have seen the similar journey where most of our customers have adapted towards the digital one. And that's what we have been talking during our launch also. Well, another question I have, Mr. Karmali, to you is, what is the role of digital in improving the customer experience, given the rapid growth of digitalization in the present times?
Yeah, so I think it's a very natural question, because the way we are headed, this is something that's top of everyone's mind. So like I said, in steady state going forward, we will be at 60% digital, 40% physical. So in which case, I would say the role of digitization, the role of digital in customer experience takes a front seat, and the actual physical experience moves back. In which case, I would say critically, tools like artificial intelligence, machine learning, to understand your consumer, to actually define the consumer, to understand his shopping behavior, to understand his preferences, so that you're able to customize your social media campaigns accordingly, becomes a very critical, I would say, element of customer experience. The other thing I would invest in is in enhancing the brand on social media, because with consumers working so much more on the platforms, the digital platforms, your social media visibility has to be pretty high. And I want to end by saying that in today's world, where this entire shift has happened, which I just spoke about, it's no more about satisfying customers. When I started out my journey 30 years ago, satisfying a customer was enough. Then somewhere along the line, we all realized that it's about delighting the customer. I would think in today's world, those 2 words are old. It's no more about satisfying. It's no about delighting. It's just one word which I look at from a customer experience. And to this very august audience, I would like to leave this thought. It's about customer advocacy. I repeat, it's about customer advocacy. Today, the word of mouth, thanks to social media, the referencing, and a customer, your customer, who's really been given the best customer experience online, offline, pre and post purchase, actually is your biggest brand advocate. And if he is tweeting you, if he is putting you up on Facebook as a brand that he is holding close to his heart, in fact, if he's able to have conversations with his peer groups on social media regarding your brand and talking about his brand experience in his group, I would say you've arrived. It's a state of nirvana. And that would be my dream for each one of you.
Delight to customer advocacy. In a few questions earlier, Mr. Vaidya talked about customer delight. Now we are hearing more about a new terminology, customer advocacy, and it's what we need to focus on. I suppose everyone over here would get a lot of understanding on how to take it forward, and all the inputs coming from our industry experts. Asura makes ourselves to be believing on the new concepts like customer advocacy and how we can take it forward. Great, great. I mean to say, people who are already in the market and have been doing this actually gives us a lot of important key points to take away from this discussion and how we should start implementing in our own businesses. Going back to Mr. Majumdar, my last question, and very important when it comes to business continuity, practices and plan. How can a flawed BCP affect an organization? And how can a business work on plugging the flaws to make it a sound BCP?
It's such a profound question that it requires really a very simple answer. The simple answer to this profound question is the flawed BCP will kill you. Very simple. Right? Now, what's a flawed BCP is the question. I think it boils down to very core questions of any business. It can even, depending on how deeply you want to think about this, but it would possibly involve questions like, what are you really doing? Why are you doing this business? How do you plan to make this business grow? What kind of value do you wish to give to your customer? These questions are very important. The reason I'm saying this is these questions drive business processes. These questions decide who you are. These questions tell us the kind of person we are will determine the kind of business most likely that you will be leading and running. So it's important that we ask these basic questions of ourselves. In my mind, from what I just said to your earlier question, I am putting customers in the center of my world and my customers in the center of my world. Then my BCP should be targeted around that. If it's targeted around that, now I would start thinking what could be a flawed scenario. If, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm unable to give value to somebody who has trusted me and given me, amongst other things, maybe money, time, but just basically trusted me, if I'm unable to give value to that person, if I'm unable to be, I'm a consultant, right? So some part of my work is I need to be available to my customers. Some of them literally at odd hours because they'll need to talk to me for something very important. Now, if I'm not available for whatever maybe the reasons, as you are aware, I was like most of our country, I was down with COVID for a very long period of time. Now, I was unwell, and a lot of my customers are people I worked with for 15, 20 years, and they're my friends, and they were very sympathetic, and they were like waiting for me to get better. But, you know, it was 2 weeks, and then it was 3 weeks, and it was a month, 6 weeks. All, you know, all that is fine. I mean, they really deeply care about me. By the end of the day, they needed their consultant to be up on their feet. They just could not have it otherwise because their problems don't stop. It's like my wife, she's a doctor. She told me, you know, this COVID thing, what it did is it stopped some of the cosmetic procedures. Right? So people were not coming to the hospital for doing any of the non-essential things. Right? But heart attacks did not stop. Cancer did not take a rest. Right? All of those terrible things continued. Right? Similarly, with my customers, while I was trying to recover from COVID, they were trying to recover from this immense lockdown, which brought unbelievable financial problems and burdens on all of them. And they needed their consultant to stand by. Now, my BCP needs to thereby, since at the heart, I said the basic questions we need to ask is, why am I doing this? What do I mean to my customers? What does my customer mean to me? And I'm saying the center of my world is my customer and my customer's customer. So a flawed BCP would be that I don't think from their point of view now. Right? A good BCP would be that I try and imagine what may happen to them if I am not around to support.
Right.
The worst that will happen eventually to me in this entire thing is that I'll get replaced. I'll get replaced. Life goes on. But there could be terrible things that can happen to them because they will not get to speak to me. So I'll get replaced. If you look at BCP from your own personal point of view, I think it's a very myopic and wrong way of looking at business. Real business is adding value, giving value, and it's an interchange between a customer and the service provider. Right? So I should not do BCP thinking if I don't do it, I'll get replaced. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. For me, BCP is business continuity practice in such a manner that if the business comes to a standstill or there's a problem, I can keep giving value. So what I did I'm very lucky because I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of people who I work with and they're extremely gifted. So when I realized that I have something like long COVID and it may last over a period of time and I will not be 100%, I try to demarcate my work as best as possible through to other consultants, including people who don't work with me, as in my competitors.
Right.
Now, so my business continuity practice, Samudra, this may sound weird to you, included letting go of some of my customers. Because the worst that can happen is not that I will be replaced. The worst that can happen is that my customers will truly suffer. And I don't want that to happen. Now, this is not necessarily an altruistic way of looking at life. This is not necessarily because I'm a wonderful human being or anything like that. It's just the way I am. And over 20 years, I've built relationships with these people, right? What happens is they know that my mind, what is of paramount importance for my personal benefit as well is their value. Even if I let go of work now, I don't ruin the relationships. And they know it's just a matter of time. Maybe some of these relationships will never come back to me. That's also fine. I will get others. But I tried to ensure that I did not kill their business or whatever by not being present. Now, I'm not trying to say this is easy for a consultant to do for larger businesses. It may not be something that we can all do all the time. But the question is, summarizing, what are your core aspects in your business? Why are you doing the business? What are the core values about your business? A. B. Putting customers in the center and customer in the center of your entire BCP planning. Now, the flawed aspect is a question of those questions that you asked and considering the customer as the center, you're now asking what are the processes that you need to build to support your customers. It's actually very simple if you think about it from this perspective. Anything else is extra and a luxury. Merely dal chawal is thinking like this. If I have sufficient cash and time, I may think other aspects of business continuity, right? Now, keeping this in mind, if you can do that as something goes down during a calamity, something else picks up, most likely for a stopgap arrangement, you're ensuring the most important asset that you have in your business, a paying customer, is still, the relationship is still being sort of, held on to this. You are you're extremely good in sales, sales champion. You know the kind of relationships, you know how long it takes to build relationships with people. And relationships are built over time when you give value for you sell whatever you're selling, you're giving them service. The relationships are really built over trust. So you need to protect that at any cost, not necessarily the business. Business will come again, but if you can protect the trust. So I'm saying, I'm spinning this a little bit slightly from my point of view. I don't know whether this will suffice your needs. But from me, BCP is to ensure that my business processes are taking care of my customers' trust in me are held intact.
Mr. Majumdar, you have been amazing. That's where a professor comes into the picture and how easily you have explained a very tough question. We're lucky to have you here with us considering flawed BCPs and never being considered the big organization also. You have easily pulled up and explained the whole community, makes a huge sense for the whole audience and especially at Cognilements. We are sure about taking this on priority and our customers who are going to use our platform. We would ensure that we will educate everyone with the knowledge we have gathered. Thanks, Mr. Majumdar. And moving on to Malhar, Barai, which is the last question of this session. What are the fourth generation marketing strategies you think can change the post-pandemic era?
So the focus again, and say building the awareness perspective is I would really start from the bottom of the customer journey, right? And it starts with the search experience. Anyone who is looking for information is definitely not going into a Facebook or a Twitter to search for something, right? They would always go to something like Google to start their journey, even from a say real estate perspective, right? Looking for a 2 BHK flat in Baner Road, right? You will still go and search for it. You will not go to Facebook, you will not go to Twitter to look for it, right? So that's where my journey starts, and that's where the innovation will start. So again, from a brand experience perspective, is my brand coming up when people are searching for those terms? Have I invested in technology in terms of having my website listed whenever people are searching for the common search terms? Am I listening to what people are searching for? And am I tuning my brand to ensure that my brand answers to those questions, right? So that's a start, right? And then from there on, what experience I'm giving in when they come to my website, come to my brand page, etc. What conversions can I do? What are the different ways I can engage them? Can I give them information? And that also you'll have to see if people, and then some mistakes what the brands make is like they would only think that people without disabilities as the criteria, right? So whenever they are developing their website, developing any brand pages, there is hardly a thought given that it could be a person with visual disability, any other kind of disability. Is my brand experience geared towards those customers also? Because when you talk about inclusivity, when you talk about all the other human elements, right, it becomes very important that you look at different kind of people who will be visiting. Make it, when Arjun said seamless, when Aseem was mentioning about that experience part, we will have to look at those aspects also. And for brands, it becomes very important. So this I think is the most basic aspect. Now, beyond that is what brand should be looking at in terms of how I can improve the experience, your AR, VR part, right? Now, say from personalization perspective, if you look at, say, again, going further, there is going to be a cookieless world, right? So the browsers, the OSs are trying to ensure that they don't track your movements across different pages. You can start controlling that. So from a technology point, right, there will always be a first party data. You have very less third party data available as a brand. So what can you do with that first party data? How can you personalize based on that first party data? I'm talking too much technical, but that is the future that is coming, and that is how brands will have to be ready for those kind of conversations, have those kind of insights, so that the difference can be made from a customer experience perspective, because that's at the most basic of technology level. And then you start off what next, what are the next ways of engagement, what are the next moments of engagement that I can generate. Can I do a digital marketing campaign so that I bring the right kind of customers? Can I do, say your radio, TV ads, or your OTT kind of campaigns? All those things, third generation marketing, but still take care of all of this. Then think of the fourth generation, fifth generation, where you have your AR, VR, AI, ML, whatever you call it. Yeah.
Just adding on to what Mr. Barai said, I think online presence is extremely important. So before, if there's a customer who is, till the time I don't start looking for a property, I don't know anything about it. So it's not something, so I only see things which I am interested to buy. If I'm looking to buy a car, then I'll start seeing all those car ads. If, so when you start to come on that journey of looking to buy a real estate, that is when you start to look for those ads, look for those, hoardings and everything which is related to that particular thing. Prior to that, you are completely oblivious to the fact that this kind of a brand even exists. So while a person thinks that today I'm wanting to buy an apartment or a bigger apartment, 3-4 BHK apartment, he starts to search online first. So that's the first thing which happens. And the presence which you have online is extremely important. I think 50% of the perception of a customer is made even before he visits the site. So he looks at the website, he sees, he scrolls down the entire thing, he looks at the information which is available online. Today, all the customer wants information readily available. He doesn't want to really call up someone, be on hold, then tell him that, you send me the proposal, you send me the floor plan, you send me the configuration. He wants to explore everything, and he is completely, hooked on to his, mobile, wherein he is wanting to consume more and more content. So it's very, very important that you put everything out in the digital space, wherein he is able to go through that entire thing, and that is the time that he wants to then interact, and he has doubts and he has taken note of everything, and now he wants to understand in detail what is there. So the way you have your chatbots being there, the way your response time is when he calls up a customer care or a sales inquiry number, he should not be someone who has been redirected multiple times. The call should be answered within 5 seconds or 7 seconds. So those are the things which really play a very, very important role, because the time span of a customer is very limited. He'll move on to the next person. If he likes it, then he'll start talking to that particular person. So it's very, very important. In fact, I can tell you with respect to our business, till about 3 years back, we used to be heavily relying on channel partner sales. So 70-75% of our business used to come from channel partners. In the last 2 years, 3 years time, it is almost 60% of the business which we are doing online or through direct marketing or customer references. So that from a 75%, it has come down to a 40% from a channel partner. So people are more wanting to come interact with the developer directly. They are wanting to consume content over online platforms and then engage with the developer directly. So that change has started happening. You will see builders spending a lot of money on digital marketing now, which was never seen with real estate. So they used to be very, very, again, and no one knew actually about digital marketing. It is only in the last 3-4 years time wherein developers have started putting huge budgets on digital marketing platforms, and it is with every developer now. So even our small-time developer who has just started 3 years back or 4 years back, he is also completely relying on digital marketing. In fact, more than developers, it is also the channel partners who have started doing digital marketing. So for them, the primary source is now digital marketing. Earlier, it used to be their own customers whom they have a good relationship with or good rapport with. They used to get those customers. Now those things have ended. They are also relying completely on digital marketing. In fact, they bid against your keywords. So you're also competing with your own channel partner to get a lead.
It also comes to say how living the promise, right? So brands have to live their promise. So and example is, see, every brand gives a tagline, has a certain vision that they define, but how is it that put in action, right? And that is where, when I say leverage technology for that moments of engagement and tie that to your own vision, what has been defined. Say, again, if I have to take an example, take Mahindra, when we said we have a sustainability goal, right? We want to be, say, consume less energy, consume less power, right? That is the goal as an organization. Now that I have to put that into practice. And one of the first thing that we did is when we reworked on our website, the first thing again there was like, how can I make my website easy or a website that consumes less energy. So even today, when you go to the website, it will show you that it's one of the first website in the world which consumes the least amount of energy. And what that consumption of energy that you are doing, you can literally change the brightness of the website. And when you change the brightness of the website, what is that saving in terms of power that you do, right? That is shown below the website, right? So that's the power of engagement. That's the power of technology. That's how you reflect back or put your vision into action, right? So I have to find this kind of opportunities.
That's a great insight talking about the carbon footprints coming into the picture with marketing. It's a new thing altogether. Wow, this has been an amazing session, and we have learned a lot many things from this discussion with Aslam, Arjun, Aseem, Kaustav Majumdar, and Mr. Malhar Barai. I, as the founder, CEO of Cognilements, would like to take many insights from this session. I thank all our speakers who have come forward here and joined us to share their experiences in the future of experiences MiraX. I am concluding the first episode. Join us again tomorrow for episode 2 from the industry experts, where they will be talking about experiential marketing, sales, and real estate going forward. Thank you very much.